There's something magical about the moment when a seed transforms into sustenance. Picture this: the first light of dawn breaking over endless rows of vegetables, the gentle rustle of leaves heavy with fruit, and the weathered hands of a homesteader reaching for nature's bounty. This is more than farming. This is the rhythm of life itself. For generations, our ancestors understood a simple truth: the earth provides, but only for those willing to work with her seasons. They knew the precise moment when corn silk turned brown, when apple blossoms gave way to tiny green fruits, and when the last tomatoes of summer needed to be gathered before the killing frost. Their lives moved in harmony with nature's calendar, each day bringing new tasks dictated by the ancient dance between soil, seed, and season. Today, we're witnessing something extraordinary: a homesteading revolution where tradition meets innovation, where over 120 different varieties of vegetables and fruits are being harvested by dedicated farmers who refuse to let the old ways die. Walk through a modern homestead in peak growing season, and you'll discover a living tapestry of abundance that would have seemed impossible to previous generations. From the earliest spring greens pushing through warming soil to the final winter squash stored in root cellars, these contemporary homesteaders have mastered the art of continuous production. They grow heritage tomatoes in colors that span the rainbow, tend to fruit trees that bear multiple varieties grafted onto single trunks, and nurture vegetable gardens that produce fresh food 12 months of the year. This isn't just agriculture. It's a return to a way of life that prioritizes quality over quantity, sustainability over short-term profit, and community connection over industrial efficiency. It's proof that the future of food might very well be found in the wisdom of the past, enhanced by the innovations of the present. If you're finding this glimpse into the homesteading revolution as inspiring as we are, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts about modern homesteading in the comments below. Have you ever considered growing your own diverse food garden? Not so long ago, homesteading families would spend entire seasons tending to just a handful of crops. A typical homestead might grow 10 to 15 varieties of vegetables, enough to feed a family through winter, with perhaps a small surplus to trade with neighbors. The harvest was a community event, where everyone gathered to help preserve the season's work before the first frost arrived. Grandmother's garden might have contained reliable staples: potatoes for storage, beans for protein, cabbage for sauerkraut, and perhaps a few fruit trees planted by the previous generation. Each variety was chosen for its ability to thrive in local conditions and store well through winter months. Families became experts in preservation techniques: canning, drying, smoking, and root cellar storage, because a failed harvest could mean genuine hardship. The growing season was dictated entirely by local climate. Spring planting waited for the last frost date. Summer meant constant vigilance against pests and drought, and fall brought the urgent rush to harvest everything before winter's arrival. Crop failure was always a real possibility, making diversity within their limited selection a matter of survival rather than choice. Traditional homesteaders relied on heirloom seeds passed down through generations, each variety carefully selected for specific qualities. They saved seeds from their best plants, gradually developing strains perfectly adapted to their local conditions. Knowledge was shared between neighbors, with experienced homesteaders teaching newcomers the subtle art of reading weather patterns, soil conditions, and plant health. The tools were simple but effective: hand hoes for cultivation, wooden rakes for gathering, and horse-drawn plows for breaking ground. Storage methods were equally straightforward: root cellars dug into hillsides, wooden crates for apples, and stone crocks for fermented vegetables. Everything was built to last, repaired when broken, and passed down to the next generation. But something remarkable has happened in recent years. Modern homesteaders have discovered that by combining traditional knowledge with contemporary techniques, they can dramatically expand their growing capacity. What once required massive commercial operations can now be achieved on modest homesteads, producing an incredible diversity of fresh produce year-round. Today's homesteaders don't just grow more varieties. They've learned to extend seasons, maximize space, and create microclimates that allow tropical plants to thrive in temperate zones. They understand soil science in ways their ancestors couldn't imagine, using pH meters and soil tests to optimize growing conditions for specific crops. They've embraced technology not as a replacement for traditional wisdom, but as a tool that amplifies nature's own systems. The transformation is staggering. Where previous generations might have grown 15 varieties across an entire homestead, today's innovative farmers are producing over 120 different types of vegetables and fruits on similar-sized properties. They're growing Asian vegetables alongside European heirlooms, cultivating tropical fruits in greenhouse environments, and maintaining seed libraries that preserve genetic diversity for future generations. Modern homesteaders have access to varieties that would have been impossible for their ancestors to obtain. International seed companies now offer vegetables and fruits from every continent, allowing homesteaders to experiment with crops that originated thousands of miles away. They can grow Japanese eggplants, Italian herbs, and South American peppers, all in the same garden, creating a global pantry in their backyard. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're enjoying this journey through homesteading history and evolution. Subscribe for more content about sustainable living, and let us know in the comments which historical farming practices you find most fascinating. Simple technical explanation. The secret lies in understanding how modern tools can amplify nature's own systems. Today's homesteaders use raised bed systems that maximize growing space while improving soil drainage. These elevated growing areas warm faster in spring, provide better root zone conditions, and allow for intensive planting methods that can triple or quadruple traditional yields. Raised beds also make maintenance easier by reducing the need to bend and kneel, while their defined borders help organize different crops and prevent soil compaction from foot traffic. Many homesteaders build raised beds using recycled materials like old lumber or repurposed concrete blocks, keeping costs low while creating productive growing spaces. They employ succession planting, starting new crops every few weeks to ensure continuous harvests throughout the growing season. Instead of planting all their lettuce at once and facing a glut followed by scarcity, modern homesteaders stagger plantings to maintain steady production. This technique works particularly well with fast-growing crops like radishes, spinach, and salad greens, allowing families to harvest fresh vegetables continuously rather than dealing with feast or famine cycles. Greenhouse tunnels and cold frames extend the growing season dramatically, allowing tender vegetables to thrive even when outdoor temperatures drop. These structures create protected microclimates, where warm season crops can continue producing well into autumn, while cool season vegetables can be started earlier in spring. Some advanced homesteaders use heated greenhouses to grow tropical fruits like citrus, figs, and even bananas in climates where they would never survive outdoors. Low tunnels made from wire hoops and clear plastic can be quickly installed over garden beds to protect crops from unexpected frosts or harsh weather. These simple structures can extend the growing season by several weeks on both ends, dramatically increasing the variety of crops that can be successfully grown in challenging climates. Drip irrigation systems deliver water directly to plant roots, reducing waste while ensuring consistent moisture. These systems can be programmed to provide precise amounts of water at optimal times, eliminating both drought stress and overwatering problems. Many homesteaders combine drip irrigation with mulching techniques that further conserve moisture while suppressing weeds and improving soil health. Modern timers and moisture sensors allow irrigation systems to operate automatically, ensuring plants receive consistent care even when homesteaders are busy with other tasks. This technology is particularly valuable during peak growing season, when dozens of different crops may have varying water requirements. Vertical growing systems have revolutionized space utilization on modern homesteads. Trellises, towers, and living walls allow climbing plants like beans, peas, cucumbers, and squash to grow upward rather than outward, multiplying harvest potential in the same footprint. Some innovative homesteaders create multi-story growing systems where shade-tolerant plants like lettuce and herbs thrive beneath canopy crops like tomatoes and peppers. Companion planting strategies help different crops support each other naturally. Homesteaders have learned to pair plants that complement each other's nutrient needs, pest resistance, and growth habits. The classic Three Sisters combination of corn, beans, and squash has been expanded into complex polyculture systems that might include dozens of different species growing together harmoniously. Modern companion planting goes beyond traditional combinations to include flowers that attract beneficial insects, herbs that repel pests, and cover crops that improve soil between main plantings. These integrated systems create mini ecosystems that support plant health while reducing the need for external inputs. Soil building techniques focus on creating rich living ecosystems underground. Modern homesteaders understand that healthy soil contains billions of beneficial microorganisms that help plants access nutrients and resist diseases. They use compost, cover crops, and minimal tillage methods to build soil organic matter while maintaining the complex fungal networks that support plant health. Compost systems have become more sophisticated, with 3-bin systems allowing continuous production of finished compost, while new materials are being processed. Some homesteaders use tumbling composters or vermiculture systems to accelerate decomposition and create rich soil amendments from kitchen scraps and garden waste. The result is breathtaking. A single homestead can now produce over 120 different varieties of vegetables and fruits, from familiar favorites like tomatoes and lettuce to unique heirloom varieties that carry stories from past generations. These might include purple carrots that were common centuries ago, unusual squash varieties from different continents, and fruit trees that bear multiple types of apples or stone fruits through specialized grafting techniques. If you're amazed by these modern homesteading techniques, show your support by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Have you tried any of these methods in your own garden? Share your experiences in the comments. We love hearing from fellow homesteading enthusiasts. Tribute to rural workers. Behind every successful harvest stands a homesteader whose commitment goes far beyond a simple hobby. These are individuals who wake before sunrise to check on their plants, who study weather patterns like ancient farmers once read the stars, and who understand that growing food is both an art and a science, requiring constant learning and adaptation. They work through scorching summers and bitter winters, their hands telling the story of countless hours spent nurturing life from soil. Calloused fingers that know the difference between healthy soil and depleted earth. Eyes trained to spot the first signs of pest damage or nutrient deficiency. Backs strengthened by years of bending to tend low-growing crops. These physical markers represent a deep connection to the land that few people in our modern world truly understand. The daily routine of a homesteader managing over 120 varieties begins before dawn and continues past sunset. Morning might start with checking greenhouse temperatures and adjusting ventilation, followed by harvesting vegetables at their peak ripeness. Mid-morning brings watering tasks, pest monitoring, and the endless cycle of weeding that keeps crops healthy and productive. These contemporary pioneers have developed an intimate relationship with their environment that goes far beyond simple cultivation. They know which direction the prevailing winds blow and how to use this knowledge to protect tender plants. They understand the subtle signs that indicate when fruit is perfectly ripe, not just when it looks ready to commercial standards. They've learned to read their soil like a book, understanding its history, its needs, and its potential. The mental demands of managing over 120 varieties of crops would overwhelm most people. Each plant has its own requirements for planting depth, spacing, water needs, nutrient requirements, and harvest timing. Successful homesteaders develop complex mental calendars that track when to start seeds indoors, when to transplant outdoors, when to apply fertilizers, and when to harvest for peak quality. They maintain detailed growing logs that help them refine their techniques year after year. Record keeping becomes essential when managing such diversity. Many homesteaders maintain detailed journals documenting planting dates, weather conditions, pest problems, harvest yields, and variety performance. This information becomes invaluable for planning future seasons and sharing knowledge with other homesteaders. They've learned that homesteading isn't just about growing food. It's about creating a sustainable way of life that honors both the land and the community it feeds. Many modern homesteaders go beyond personal food production to become seed savers, preserving rare varieties that might otherwise disappear from cultivation. Others share their excess produce with neighbors, food banks, or local markets, strengthening community food security. The commitment to seed saving represents a particular dedication to the future. Homesteaders carefully select their best plants for seed production, allowing them to fully mature and carefully harvesting, cleaning, and storing seeds for next year's planting. This work ensures that unique varieties remain available for future generations, while gradually adapting crops to local growing conditions. These modern pioneers face challenges our ancestors never imagined. Climate unpredictability that makes traditional growing calendars unreliable, soil degradation from previous agricultural practices, and the pressure to compete with industrial agriculture that can produce food at artificially low prices. Yet they persist, driven by a deep belief that small-scale, thoughtful farming can feed families while healing the earth. Weather patterns that once followed predictable cycles now shift unexpectedly, requiring homesteaders to be more flexible and adaptive than ever before. They learn to work with nature's variability rather than fighting against it, developing resilient systems that can handle both droughts and floods, early frosts and extended growing seasons. Their dedication extends to learning continuously about new techniques, improved varieties, and innovative growing methods. Many attend workshops, participate in online communities, and experiment with cutting-edge approaches like permaculture design, bio-intensive methods, or hydroponic systems. They understand that successful homesteading requires combining respect for traditional wisdom with openness to new ideas. The physical demands are relentless. Spring brings the urgency of seed starting and soil preparation. Summer requires constant vigilance against pests and diseases. Autumn demands intensive harvesting and preservation work, and winter involves planning for the next year while maintaining stored crops. Managing 120 different varieties means that something always needs attention, creating a year-round cycle of meaningful work. During peak growing season, homesteaders might spend 12 hours a day in their gardens, moving from one crop to another, as different plants require attention. The work is physically demanding, but deeply satisfying, providing a direct connection between effort and nourishment that few modern occupations can match. Their dedication goes beyond personal gain. Every tomato they grow, every apple they harvest, represents a small act of resistance against a food system that has lost touch with its roots. They're proving that quality trumps quantity, that diversity strengthens resilience, and that the future of farming might very well lie in returning to its human-scale origins while embracing appropriate technology. These homesteaders often become informal teachers and mentors in their communities, sharing knowledge with neighbors and inspiring others to try growing their own food. Their success demonstrates that self-sufficiency and sustainability are achievable goals rather than impossible dreams. Please take a moment to like this video if you appreciate the dedication of these hard-working homesteaders. Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories from the world of sustainable agriculture, and tell us in the comments about the homesteaders who have inspired you in your own journey. Reflective ending. As we watch these homesteaders tend their incredible variety of crops, we're witnessing something profound: the marriage of ancient wisdom and modern innovation. They've shown us that it's possible to grow more food in less space, with less environmental impact, while creating stronger communities and healthier families. Their success challenges every assumption about what's possible on a small scale. The over 120 varieties of vegetables and fruits flourishing on today's homesteads represent more than agricultural success. They symbolize hope. Hope that we can feed ourselves without destroying the planet through industrial monocultures and chemical dependency. Hope that small-scale farming can thrive alongside large-scale operations, providing alternatives to a food system increasingly controlled by corporate interests. Hope that the next generation will inherit a world where good food is accessible to everyone, not just those who can afford premium prices. These homesteaders are quietly revolutionizing our understanding of what's possible when human ingenuity works in partnership with natural systems. They're proving that biodiversity isn't just a luxury for those with time and resources. It's a practical strategy for resilience, nutrition, and long-term sustainability. Their diverse growing systems are more resistant to pests, diseases, and weather extremes than monoculture operations. The ripple effects of their work extend far beyond individual properties. When a homestead produces 120 different varieties of vegetables and fruits, it becomes a living seed bank that preserves genetic diversity for future generations. Many of these varieties contain traits that may become crucial as climate change challenges conventional agriculture: drought resistance, heat tolerance, or unique nutritional profiles that could address emerging health needs. In a time when many people feel disconnected from their food source, these homesteaders remind us of something essential: the profound satisfaction that comes from working with our hands, the deep peace found in nature's rhythms, and the simple joy of sharing a meal grown with love and intention. They understand that food is more than calories and nutrients. It's culture, community, and connection to the living world. Their work also represents a form of practical environmentalism that goes beyond protest or policy advocacy. Every homestead that produces over 120 varieties is a working demonstration of sustainable agriculture, carbon sequestration, biodiversity preservation, and local food security. These living laboratories prove that ecological principles can guide productive human enterprise. Children who grow up on diverse homesteads develop deep ecological literacy that will serve them throughout their lives. They learn to observe natural cycles, understand the connections between soil health and plant vitality, and appreciate the patience required to nurture living systems. This knowledge creates a foundation for environmental stewardship that no classroom can provide. Neighbors who see successful, small-scale agriculture are inspired to try growing their own food, creating networks of local food production that strengthen community resilience. Communities that support local homesteaders develop more robust food systems that can weather disruptions to global supply chains while providing fresher, more nutritious food for local families. Perhaps most importantly, these homesteaders are preserving knowledge that might otherwise be lost. The techniques for growing unusual varieties, the wisdom of seasonal timing, the skills of preservation and storage. All of this represents cultural heritage that's as valuable as any museum collection. They're living libraries of practical knowledge about how humans can live sustainably on the earth. As climate change and environmental degradation challenge conventional agriculture, the diversity-focused approach of modern homesteaders offers a roadmap for adaptation. Their methods work with natural systems rather than against them, building soil health, supporting beneficial insects, and creating landscapes that sequester carbon while producing food. The question isn't whether we can produce enough food to feed the world using industrial methods. We already know those techniques come with devastating environmental costs. The real question is whether we can learn from these homesteading pioneers to create food systems that nourish both people and planet. Perhaps the most profound lesson from homesteaders growing over 120 varieties is that abundance and sustainability aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, they might be inseparable. When we work with nature's preference for diversity rather than against it, we can create systems that are both more productive and more resilient than anything we can achieve through simplification and control. The future of food security may depend not on larger industrial operations, but on millions of small homesteads like these, each one a unique experiment in sustainable abundance. These homesteaders are showing us that the path forward isn't through dominating nature, but through partnership with natural systems that have sustained life on Earth for millions of years. What would your life look like if you could step outside your door and harvest dinner from your own land? What would your community look like if every neighborhood had homesteaders growing diverse, healthy food? What would our world look like if we valued the wisdom of those who know how to create abundance from soil, seed, and seasons? These aren't just philosophical questions. They're practical challenges that require real action. The homesteaders producing over 120 varieties have shown us that extraordinary diversity and productivity are possible on a human scale. Now it's up to us to decide whether we'll learn from their example and create a more sustainable, abundant future for everyone. If this vision of abundant, sustainable homesteading inspires you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories from the front lines of the farming revolution. Most importantly, share your thoughts in the comments. What steps will you take to bring more diversity and sustainability to your own food production? Your journey towards self-sufficient living could be the inspiration someone else needs to start their own homesteading adventure.